ABAS Productions, Seasonal Bonsai Series, Scene 12, Take 1.
Welcome everyone to ABAS Seasonal Bonsai Series. It is November 2024 and it's pruning time. Well, maybe not the big stuff. Maybe these tools might work a little bit better.
All right, not as much fun.
Not as much fun, but
we're going to do an overview of all the trees pretty quick. So I'm going to start with the little guy that went in a pot 2 years ago, and that's how much it's grown. So, I mean, it's grown, but fall this time is years for pruning to trim it back to shape, and we're not even there yet. So we're going to keep going until January, repot it in January, and then I might have some plans for this. We'll see how that turns out. So again, nothing, and of course it's ridiculously tall. Yeah, but there, so it goes. It's getting bigger. The second one, so on this one, it should have lost its leaves by now, and they're just barely starting to turn. But what happened, if you fertilize and don't take the fertilizer off like the end of September, it's not going to change colors. And eventually, sometime in December, these will probably fall off with very minimal color change. They'll change like these little bit of yellow, and then they'll fall off. So if you want fall color, take your fertilizer off the end of September and go with the O1010 to help the roots. But the leaves are done and they need to put their effort back into the roots. So, but this is fine because I'm growing this out, so it's all right. So we're going to cut all the leaves off and see what's underneath all of this. Our most important thing is still the base and the first branch. Okay. Third tree challenger. Have our thread grafts, we have our root grafts. We're going to review them and see if what we can cut off, what we need to keep, and go from there. So it's looking pretty good. And decide if this one needs to be cut off. So there's some decision making to be made, but at least most of the thread grafts worked. Okay, and Renee's tree.
This is our more refined tree. So this time of year we're going to go and do silhouette pruning, which is what you do on most of your more refined trees, just a basic silhouette pruning. But each tree being its own unique project, there are certain things with this tree that I'm going to do that I wouldn't do to another tree because they're unique to this tree. One of the things is when I was wiring it last May, I broke this branch. So this branch is weak. I am not going to prune this branch. I'm going to let this one grow so I can heal the wound here, because this is a very important branch to the composition of the tree. I don't want to lose it, so I'm going to just leave this and not prune it. The other thing is I have decided I would like to add a thread graft somewhere in this area to add a little bit more branching. So I'm going to let one of these extensions on the bottom grow. I don't know if it's going to be this or this. This branch could get a little bit thicker, so I just might let these run. So next May, when I defoliate and prune, I can use this for a thread graft to add another branch here. So, and then the other thing I'm going to do in February, we've done a lot of thread grafting for roots on this, so the nabari is getting a lot better. But I'm going to repot it and put this under the soil, which will also help develop this part of the tree a little bit more. So that's what we're doing with this one.
So the first thing we're going to do with this is cut off all the leaves, and you really don't want to sit here and watch us do that. So we're going to cut away and come back when all the leaves are gone. So this is the provisional front. I won't know until January when we repot, and it looks like it's going to need some thread grafts, root grafts. So things could change, but for right now, this is my provisional front because I have this nice branch coming out this way It's my primary, that's my secondary. And so I'm working with that. But it could change slightly, so we shall see. So let's start with the primary branch. Really thick, and the branches I want to use are probably maybe that one, definitely this one, possibly that one. I don't want to cut this back because it's slowing everything down. This is the thickness I want right now. So short of, all I'm going to do is cut some of these long guys back. That one's dead anyway. I'm going to leave this one in the back. Well, no, I'm basically going to cut them all short because I want to start the process of ramifying. That one's dead. All the deads get cut off. And I'm going to cut this one short too. So I'm just going around, and all these are kind of back to one bud there. This is a tight little group of buds that I'm fine with that. I probably am going to cut this whole thing off right here and then go with this. If that has a, that may not bud back, but I'll see. I don't think it's going to, but let's see what happens if I cut it way back. And same thing on, that's dead. See, if they have really long internodes, if I don't have anything there, this is way too long. So if I cut these way back, we'll see what happens. And I might have to go with something totally different. Something back in here may become my my branch coming out. This is probably too long. I have this back here. So that might be it right there. But it has to come from underneath. So there's some more cutting to do on this. Cut that off too. Okay, shorten that up. All right, and then the next branch, this is my second, and it could stand to be a little bit bigger. And the other possible problem is it's coming out too far forward to be a second branch. So I am going to cut off, sorry, this guy. I'm going to let these get long, one of them, not this one. That's coming out the top, so that gets cut back. I'm going to let this one grow out because it's going off to the side a little bit better. And then these little guys in the back, I'm just going to cut that off. So that's my main. So you don't have to leave a lot. Just like that. And that will take off. Okay, going on up. This is, you think this was a thread graft? No, I don't think so.
No.
I think it just came out.
Yeah.
And I've got a bud there. It can just grow.
It needs to be thicker, right?
It needs to be thicker. And I have a bud here. So luckily, when I finally do cut this, I'll get a bud there, and that's going to be where my branch comes through. Same thing, too long of an internode. These two in the back, I'm going to save for thread grafts. They're in the back, so they can get bigger. It doesn't really matter what's happening back there. So, because I think when I cut this huge wad off, I'm going to probably need a thread graft here or there. Have a bud, something budded there and there. This is really nice. I like having that thread graft. Over here is the big wound, and I actually had a huge callus on it, and I went ahead, not in the seasonal bonsai series, but I just couldn't stand it. So I carved it back down again. So you can see from the side, it's flatter again. It was just getting this huge, like the size of my finger, callus going around it. So everything has to keep growing to heal this too. That's a consideration. So this is probably fine. That's dead in the middle. And then I have to kind of, actually those are probably fine. I can live with those. And then up here we want to slow this down as bad as it is, and the whole thing's coming off. So we are going to cut off everything
Above the first bud.
Above the first bud. When you can see there's a bud right there, so I can cut it there. There's a bud there. I can cut that there. Actually, none of this matters because it's all going to be gone, but I truly need to slow this thing down. And there's always a bud right there at the back. So you guys cut that. think I'm going to cut off this. I'm not going to use this. There's a bud there. I'm just going to cut it off. So it's basically not even a distraction. It's gone. Okay, one more time around. And you can see how just absolutely hideous this thing is. Okay.
It's all going to get cut off.
It will all be cut off. This is almost healed. This is the other important. If I cut this way off, this needs to be healed. And I think it's getting pretty close to being healed. Otherwise, you would just, it would weaken everything up there. So you see it from the side. Yikes. Yeah, a wad. So it's going to look better when that is gone. And we will decide that probably, and this could actually become the apex, depending. I could even pull that up for now. It's either going to be a thread graft or an apex, or a thread graft to become the apex. All right, so that's where we stand. So the front, it's getting better at the base.
Root graft.
Oh, and yeah, and root grafts in January.
The existing root graft. Why don't we cut
Oh,
it off
I
now?
don't want to cut it off now because why bother? It's still under there. When I pull it out in January, I'm going to see what's happening to it. You know, I'm 99% sure I'll be able to cut it off. But why? It's not hurting anything. It's out of the way. So
It'd be nice for people to see the connection.
the connection
with
when I pull this up and turn it upside down, and hopefully we'll be able to tell exactly where it came out. You can kind of tell it came out. It's right there. So it could probably stand to use a couple more root grafts because that's pretty lonely out there with all this on the side of it. But it's a start. And I didn't have that many, the material to root graft. And this time I had better have enough material to root graft. So, all right, that's the plan for that. Okay.
Anytime.
All right, this is Challenger. This is the front. We've done a lot of stuff to this. It's been a very exciting process. Let's starting at the base. We did a couple. We did 4 root grafts. The 2 in the back took that we cut off. We've got 2 here in the front. And if you look close, this one is obviously healed into that. This is growing. This is healed into it. So I can cut this one off. This other one is tucked underneath, and I can kind of see the edge of this one. So we're going to wait until we repot to see if we can find out if the root is growing on the other side, and then we could cut that off. But for now, like I'd like to see some kind of progress. I'm going to cut this one off. Interesting. There we go. You can see behind it there was another graft. I don't know, remember if that one took or not, or what the deal with that one is. But anyway, I think we can get a little bit.
Well, this is the second set of thread grafting on roots we've done.
Yeah. Okay. Trying to make that just with a knob cutter a little bit. Knob cutter or that? Yeah, that. There we go.
Want some cut paste?
Well, you will at some point. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just going to, since I'm here, if I can see it. There. Okay, that's better. So I like the little divot there is fine. It's interesting. All right, so now we're down to 1, and we'll see what happens when we repot in spring. If we add even more, I have a feeling we might be okay because it's growing like gangbusters. So the next thing we're working on is the thread grafts that we did. So you can see, so we're going to follow this one comes through here, and this is where it comes out. You see how thin this is? I'm going to pull away the cut paste. This is very thin, and then you see the other side, and it's extremely thick. It's growing a lot, and that means it has healed into this right here, healed into the bark there. So this is taken completely, which now means I can cut this off. And there's no buds over here. I mean, sometimes you can save the other side, but this doesn't have anything. So this is ready to come off. And the wire has dug in, but we don't really care because this is going to be cut off anyway. I could cut this off right now. If I want to use another thread graft, this will probably be ready in May. I could use it again. Let's look at the front and see. Oh, wait. Yeah. Well, this is the back. So this is probably going to be cut off. The other thread graft we had that broke like about an hour after we made it, I think. I don't know how it happened. There was well, you can see the tension on that, and it broke. So we lost this thread graft. So my guess is in May, we're going to be doing another thread graft in through here. We'll have to reevaluate where, because this whole thing is supposed to come off. Right, Renee? I believe.
Something back. That's what we were trying to get something in back.
In the back. Yeah.
Hasn't worked yet. That's what this one was for.
Yeah. So
this one was for.
So we're going to have to try again there.
Yeah. We were trying to get something like in here.
Yeah.
So we could cut this part off and then the top of this. But
so I'm going to leave the pipe cleaner there as a little reminder. Okay. So now this one's done. I can take that pipe cleaner comes off. And this one could be trimmed back. Yes? Or let it grow. No. I'm going to trim off the bottom. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go like that. Okay, that. And we'll let that grow, because that needs to get thicker. Okay. So let's cut that one off.
Do we want to put some wire on this guy?
This one? Probably, yeah. Now that it's
fused
sealed,
pretty good.
It's fused well. All right, so the next one, oh, yeah, right here. So it's coming through here, and you can see how thin it is there. You got it?
Careful with this guy.
How thick it is here. So obviously that's done. So this is one of those, I mean, you can see there's a bud. If I just cut this right there. Can I take the wire off, Brittany?
Yeah. Are you going to cut this off?
Probably, yeah. If I need another thread graft. And that's the apex.
Mm-hmm.
So I want that to grow.
Oh, okay.
So we can cut, yeah, either, or just move it so it's wired
Could it be
up,
a thread
up.
graft for here?
It could.
Oh, we
Yeah.
need it. We need the wire down here to make it.
Yeah, yeah. So you can take the wire off. All right, so here we are. There it is. That's pretty thick. So that means that one is replacing, this is when it gets tricky. This one is replacing this branch. Okay, it's a really thick branch. Let's go around the other side. So you can see where the thread graft is. This whole thing comes off. Unfortunately, you're tracking up here is another thread graft, and it's coming out through here. So if I cut this right there, I automatically lose that thread graft. And it's not ready. It's very, very weak. It's alive, but it's weak.
But it's weak.
So this cannot be touched at all, which means that this stays. I would cut this off in May, and we'll see what's happening in May. If this is growing well, We may still have to leave it, but at least we'll know it's growing well. If it's failed, then we can cut this off in May. All right, so back to this one.
Smack in the face.
Swing. So this one I can cut. And can we walk? This is really thick. I don't see. There may be a bud there. I can just cut it here. Here.
Now, why didn't you cut it back to there?
This one?
Yeah.
I can use it from here. But if I have something, another bud come out from here, maybe I could use that.
Okay.
Yes? Yeah.
And
It's
then
worth a shot.
you probably would want that to leave some growth at the tip to take some of the energy out of the.
So it
This.
doesn't get fatter.
Yeah.
So this
if I cut
doesn't
it to
blow
here,
out.
this is going to go like,
Blow out.
yeah. And I don't want it to. It's very nice. Look, I've got it. There's the inner node, then another, and then the tip. So
Mhm.
that's very beautifully short, exactly what I want. Yes. Okay, do I have another thread grafter set? That's them. Well, yeah, and then the weak one, and that's just going to stay.
It just has to stay.
That just has to stay. Do we have this on for a reason? Oh, that's the apex. No,
No,
this is the
that was
apex.
the one that broke.
That failed, so that's coming off. So our only markers now are this one that we have to save for that, and this one that's going to be a future thread graft that we definitely know of.
And
Okay.
could this be it?
This is our apex. And we still have longer to go. Our problem is wire scars there. But this still needs to thicken. So this is our thickening branch, and down the line, we will probably use something else. So this is strictly,
Cut it back in there someplace.
Yeah, this could be your apex.
this could be our apex.
Yeah.
Turn it. Yeah, this could be our apex because it's kind of going straight. It needs to have a out and back. So my guess is this will probably end up being the apex. But for now, that's going to grow at least until May, and we'll wire it straight
Put a
up
little piece of wire
to get it up.
So if this was long enough, now is this an appropriate thread graft for here?
I don't know. I'd almost rather use.
That one. No.
I'd rather use this.
See, the buds on this are kind of big
Yeah, it's fat.
and
It's
it's fat. Yeah.
That's where I was asking.
And this has, look at the little inner nodes on that, so I wouldn't have to go as far and get something nice. And if I use this one, I'm again, I don't have any control over what's happening until that thread graft takes. And what if I need to cut this off in May because it's getting ridiculously strong, or I make that decision and I can't do it because I have a thread graft here. So that limits me to the timing on what I can do with that.
Well, similarly, you were thinking about cutting that off
I
because
was.
it's getting fat.
It is. But the thing with this, if I put this through here and I take off all the leaves that come off of here, I take them off. So the only part that's growing that's really happy is this part. And that slows all of this down. So by May, this is not going to get much bigger. If I keep everything safe from here on out, say I did now, I could cut all of these off.
Yeah. And
As it buds out in the spring, I'm pulling them all off because all I care about is this, and then I can let that grow also.
is there an advantage to doing that thread graft now versus May?
Renee prefers May or January. It's not
Yeah.
now.
January.
It's not now.
It's not now, but January.
Okay.
So pretty color. So as a reminder, let's put here's my pipe cleaner. Do we have a
You're
red?
green, since you have green on that.
Green. Okay, so let's do it there.
Yeah.
So that tells us, don't cut this off. It has a purpose, but I could still come along and just.
Yep.
I could actually rub these off. They're small enough. I mean, it's possible I could use something farther back? Then I need to wire this because I can feel how
Is it getting too stiff?
that part's okay.
Yeah.
Just,
But this
that's stiff.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to wire this also to get it going into the right place. Okay, good enough for now. Anything that comes out, you immediately rub it off, cut it off. I'll tell you what, I'll leave that one too, just in case. Okay.
So what size wire? Oh boy.
Big.
Big. We need a big wire for that, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Like a 4.
Okay.
So we wire this up, wire that,
and this one.
And that one. Okay.
All right, here's our wire. Let me explain it because there's a lot going on. This is going to be a thread graft to the one green to green over here. So we've wired it, pre-wired it, so it kind of sits in there, anchored it. So it's going to go right through there like that. So it should not break now. It was tense, but it's not going to break. So we're good with that. This one stays. This one is our sacrifice for our apex. And the reason I needed an apex to grow, this is the thickness down below where this is, and this is growing out. So you see how thick that is. The transition between this thickness and this thickness is too dramatic. It needs to flow. So this whole thing needs to grow more. That's why that's a sacrifice branch going up. At the same time, this is going to grow, and this has to be kept back because otherwise this is going to take off. That's going to actually improve that a little bit too. So we'll see this. This will probably be cut back even shorter because I don't want this to go too far. So as we're going up here, so the other thing now, this we need to grow. The apex is going to take care of it. All of this stuff, we slow down because the more this grows, the thicker, not just the thicker it becomes, but the potential for lumps and bumps that we don't really want. Even this was going to be probably my apex, but hey, in the meantime, because the way these things grow, this could take off and be the size of that in a couple of months. So to protect myself for not being there to notice that, so these are all getting cut back to the base. Let's get cut back to the base. All right.
Are you going to talk about the potential apex placement someday?
Someday we'll talk about the potential apex placement. It could be. See, there's a bud right there, and that's quite small. I'll leave that for now. We'll see what happens. It could be here. It could be cut all the way down to there. It could be here. Probably not any higher than that. And we still don't know how tall the tree is going to be, but probably it's a short, squatty guy. So probably somewhere up in here. But this will all be gone. It has to be all rebuilt to get, the top like that. Okay. And then our last, this is our sacrifice. This is our thread graft that took, and it's doing beautifully. We're leaving this long for now. I wired it, and if you look, so from the top, it's got squiggles doing fine, but then when you look straight on, this is very flat. So you have to look at every single angle from this thing. So we're going to, oops, I'm going to bend it. Bend that way. What is that? Oh, some weird bug. So I'm going to go up. And then it's still kind of flat. Better. And again, it doesn't matter too much because this is probably going to be cut shorter. The most important part is probably from there to there, or even just from there to there. So we just wanted to turn that a little bit instead of coming straight out. Okay. And I could also, do I want to cut this off? I'm going to be doing a thread graft. Do I want this healthier before I do the thread graft? Let's just cut off this. So we still have all these that are still going to grow. I want to make sure it's flowing through there so this has a better chance to seal and grow. Okay. That's helping the wound heal, but I want to kind of keep it short, and that's going to grow. Okay. I think we're good.
Okay, so we're going to do our light silhouette pruning on our more developed tree. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little red flag on this branch, because this is a branch that's cracked and I want it to get stronger and heal. So I'm not going to prune this one. I'm going to let this one grow. I'm going to let it get strong. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, so I don't forget and get into a trance and do something I shouldn't. So anyway, we're going to just start pruning on the top, looking for opportunities to cut out heavy pieces, go back to lighter pieces. So I'm seeing this is getting a little bit thick and heavy up here. I'm going to take something out in that area. I'm going to take out a chunk of that, but I got to get these things out of the way first. Yeah, the apex on these guys gets really, oops, oh shoot.
Oh no.
Uh-oh. Oh well, it'll bud out again. I kind of broke off the piece that I wanted to keep. But we'll see. It'll bud out again.
That's what we love about bonsai. They pretty much keep growing no
just
matter what.
Taking some of the really thick, heavy things off the top here. It does have a few other really thick branches, like this one is pretty thick. So I might want to cut that one back a bit as well, a little bit harder than a silhouette prune. We're just going to take a little bit of the energy out of that. We're going to let these little guys that are back in the back, we're going to let these grow, and then we'll probably just cut it all the way off. But for now, I don't want these to get too strong. So I'm going to leave these, and then in the future, possibly cut it back and go with these two guys.
But by cutting it back, you're slowing the growth of the primary part of that branch. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm slowing it down a little bit. I want to send some energy back to these two, but I don't want to send too much energy back to those because I don't want them to blow out and get really heavy. So I'm leaving a little bit there. Took some of it off, leaving a little bit to send some of the energy back to these two buds back here. So they will start growing a little stronger, and then at some point in the future, we're going to go ahead and cut this off and go with these two finer branches. So, okay, let's see. I'm going to cut that off. We're going to cut that off. Same thing here. We got two nice little buds back here. So I'm going to cut that off. Here we have three things coming out from the same place. Don't want that to get too strong. Cut that off. Cut that off. Cut that back. Cut it back to a bud. Cut that back to a bud. Let's see here. What do I want to keep on this one? This one's also getting, if you notice, this is getting a little heavy here. So I want to cut this one back a bit. Let's see, where do I want? I think I'll cut that off in the center there. Cut that off going down. Cut that one off because it's too close. Just kind of thin it out a little bit. Cut this one back to a bud.
Now, why didn't you cut that one you just cut back to the bud behind it?
Which one now?
I can't do two at once.
In here?
To there.
I didn't. Well,
because the silhouette.
Yeah, I want this. This is not huge and heavy, you know, and it kind of fills in this space. So it's kind of you know, flows into the silhouette of the apex here. So let's see, going around. Okay, on this one we have a lot of little buds coming off on the bottom here. I don't want those growing down and into this. It's just going to make it congested looking. So let's see, where do we want to cut this one back? We have a bud there. We'll cut this back to here. On this one, cut it back to there. So this is just kind of silhouette, just trimming the silhouette. I'm going to take this piece off down here. You know, each bifurcation, it's best if you can just have two things coming off from each bifurcation of the branch. When you leave more than that, you'll start getting knobs forming. And where's something I can show you a knob forming?
The dreaded
salt, like here, like on this one. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 things coming off. So there's a knob, a big knob forming right there. I should have been on top of that a little bit sooner. I want to cut it all off. I'm going to cut some of this stuff off. Something coming off the bottom. Do we need anything going down to fill in there? Sometimes it's okay to have things going a little bit up and a little bit down on a deciduous tree. You don't want flat pads, flat branches, but that's more of a conifer style. On a deciduous tree, you want more clouds, so you have things kind of going up, sometimes things going down a bit to give it, a cloud feeling rather than a pad feeling. Okay, we're going to cut this one back to here. We have some buds coming here. I don't want to cut all. I will. If these were a little bit stronger, I could cut back to them, but I'm going to leave this on for now and then probably eventually cut back to that. Okay, moving around. Looks like this little piece is dead in here. We'll take that out. See, this is another place. They're pretty close to each other right in here. I'm going to take this one out, the middle. And that's coming kind of down, which is okay. This is dead. I'm going to take that out. Going around. This is a little bit long. I'm going to cut this guy back. Don't have a really good thing to cut back to. This is the new growth from this year. It's safe to cut here because at this node there will be viable buds. So I'm pretty safe cutting off the new growth from this year. Okay. Silhouette. What's our silhouette here? Let's go back and look at it from the front. Cut this one back a bit.
Read my mind.
Read your mind. Speak up. If you see anything that I'm missing here, speak up. I don't like there's 3 things coming out there. I don't like that. I'm going to cut out the center bud on that one. Okay, coming down to this. This is a little bit long here. Cutting the silhouette here. We've got this coming up off the top. And I cut this back to here. Yep. I'm going to cut that back to there. I'm going to cut this one. It's a little bit long. I have a bud there, but that's pretty far out. So I'm going to gamble. I'm going to gamble and cut it back a bit, and hopefully something will bud back in there on that part of it. Okay, silhouette. This all looks pretty good, actually. Cut out this.
This one
See?
still looks long to me.
Does that look too long to you?
Well, to me, or the curvy one, yeah. I don't know. Can't see
it
it as
is-
well as you can.
It's a little bit long, but if I cut that off, it's gonna
Well, can you cut back?
like to there.
No. Can you cut it to like there? A quarter of an inch. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think
We
for
don't
now,
gain.
I'll leave it like that, and then I will make that decision once it buds out, and see if what I get as far as buds popping out there, because that helps make the decision too. So let's go here. I'm just going to cut this one back there. Okay, pruning silhouette, silhouette, silhouette. So on this guy, I have these two coming out. That's good. I'm going to cut the center out of that. Got those two little guys. Those are good. That's good. Wow, I wish I had something back in here to cut to, but I don't. Might just leave this. Well, I think I'll cut it there. I'll cut it there. I got this, so at least that's still there. I'd like to cut it back a little farther, but no. We'll see what we get when it buds out.
And the biggest reason to cut the silhouette is because the tree will get too big for it'll get out proportion.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, when you're developing a tree, you have a goal in mind of, how wide this tree is going to be. You can't start working on the tree when it's out here. You have to start you have to give it room to grow and to develop that ramification. So if, I'm cutting back now because this tree is going to be probably, about that wide.
And if it was wider for the size of the trunk, it would be disproportionate.
Yeah. And, you have to develop, as you develop a branch, you have to develop the ramification on that branch. So you have to start with a little short stub and then let it grow and keep pruning as it bifurcates. Keep pruning it so it bifurcates more and more and more. If you look at one of the branches, you can see, we started developing this way back here. Our first cut was way back here. So, but you have to let, the tree's going to grow. You have to have in mind how big this tree is going to be when it's finished. So you have to, it has to have room to grow. I mean, you can't just let the branch grow out and there is this big long branch. You want to have the ramification, and that takes time. It takes letting it grow out, cutting it back, letting it grow out, cutting it back. As it ramifies and the branches get longer, and you finally get into that finished silhouette. And then also, we can't let any of the top get really dense and heavy up here and shade out the bottom branches, because then they're going to get weak and you're going to lose them. So then all of that work that you did to develop these is going to go. So that's why we cut to the silhouette. So we keep this a little bit smaller. We allow the lower branches, they have to stick out of, they have to come out a little bit farther than the top of the tree, so that this part does not shade. They all have light to grow, so you can keep all of this nice ramification that you've been working on. So here we go. I'm going to cut this one back to there because we got a bud. I'm going to cut this one back to there because we have some buds there. Those are good. I'm going to just take that out. What the heck? In this tree, there's a lot of imperfections in this tree, but sometimes as you work on a tree, the imperfections become less important because the tree gets better. The overall tree gets better. So some of the imperfections that you have the age of the tree and the development of the tree will kind of trump some of the minor imperfections that you have. So don't get too frustrated if you look at something and go, oh, I'm never going to get rid of that. That's going to be there forever.
It'll drive you crazy, but no one else cares.
Yeah. And sometimes those minor imperfections go from being imperfections to being features, that make the tree unique. So there we go. That little guy there. Do I want to take that off?
I don't know.
I'm
It'll
gonna
give you something to fill in if it grew, right?
Well, yeah, and this is where something. Once you get the tree developed out to this point, and you try to grow something. That's what Debbie was asking me last night about doing a thread graft. To have something small back inside, it's really difficult because it's back in here in the shade. It's going to grow slow. It's going to be weak. It'll probably never develop into anything. So I think I'll probably just cut that off. Okay. Now I have some things coming out here. They're a little bit farther out. I'm going to leave those because who knows, they may add something to the ramification. This tree, after I defoliated in May, the top was pretty strong, but the bottom part was weaker. And that kind of worried me a little bit. That's why I'm going to repot it in February, put it in a bigger pot, a bigger growing pot. Because the bottom part, you'll notice all this bottom part was a lot weaker than the top. You can see the difference in the top and the top third of the tree and the middle third of the tree where the branches are. These were kind of weak. You can see the buds are not as robust as the top was. So I'm actually not really going to prune much down here. I'm going to kind of let this grow because I do want it to get a bit stronger. It was worrying me a little bit that it was looking as weak as it was. I'll just maybe go back and thin out some things that probably aren't going to be usable. But other than that, I'm going to kind of let it grow and get stronger. Reevaluate like in May. May end up taking things back a little bit more. Okay, where are we? I'm not going to take anything off here because this part was kind of weak. I'm just going to leave that alone. This is where, each tree is its own unique project. You can't just blindly go through, prune everything back to 2 nodes. No, you've got to study the tree. You got to let the tree tell you what it needs. And this tree is telling me that I need to be stronger down here. So we're not going to really do anything as far as major cutbacks. I'm going to maybe take out some of these heavier things. But other than that, I'm going to let this guy grow on the bottom. Maybe here, this is a branch that I started developing after the tree was grown. A bud came out, and I've been working on developing a branch here. On this one, I'm going to go ahead and cut this one back a bit because it's a long internode, very long internode. It's strong. You got nice growth behind it. So I'm pretty safe in taking that off. Go ahead.
Why are you leaving these over here? Where are you?
I was thickening this a bit. I was going to let this thicken, and then I was also thinking of putting a thread graft in here someplace. There's kind of a hole here. When I look at it from the front, it's not that noticeable. But when you turn it, you can see that there's kind of a hole right in here. I was going to, maybe potentially put some kind of a thread graft in here someplace. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. Don't know if I really need it or not. But these guys, I was thickening these a bit. Although, I don't know. Yeah, I want that a little bit thicker. I'm going to let that grow a little bit. Let that grow a little bit. Should put a teeny piece of wire on that and get it aimed out in the right direction. Okay. I don't think I'm going to do any more. I think I'm done. And we'll take it up in February or in January when we repot. So there we go. The pre-bonsai, Dennis Makashima's tree, we took the wire off of this in August and rewired some of it. We're letting this grow and getting back budding here. There were some really deep wire scars on this part and this part, this branch and this branch. You can kind of see in here the wire scars. So we're letting these run. They also have to thicken because this is going to be the new apex of the tree. So we're letting this run and thicken. That's why all this new growth is up here. This we're starting to work on pad development on this part. This tree probably we're not going to do much on this until next summer because it's been repotted. We're not going to repot it. Just going to let it set and grow.
Okay, so this is my tree. And no, I want to show something.
Oh, you want it? Okay. Whoops.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
So this is also a kishu, but I wanted to show you the difference in the thickness of the foliage. So every tree is different. This is really fine, and it does not grow as fast, and I don't think it's going to ramify it as fast. But be that as it may, it hasn't really grown hardly at all. This is still pretty. This is still weak. All I'm going to do is keep growing it, and it's all been wired out. This especially needs to grow out longer because I have a big empty space. So it's just a waiting game. And this is going to be repotted in spring because it was really compacted. So this definitely has to be repotted. So we'll be doing that.
Okay, and then on the more refined tree, this was cut, thinned, and wired in August. And now it's just sitting on the bench growing. It hasn't really grown a lot. This is a more refined tree, so you're not getting the kind of push that you get on a younger tree because there's a lot more ramification in the pads, a lot more growing tips, so the energy coming into the tree is distributed more evenly over the tree, so you don't get the real heavy push of growth in certain places. It's pretty well balanced. It's developing nicely. We'll just continue with the pad development on this one. And that's about it.